Hello, hello.
Hello. Checking your Facebook page. I don't see anything. Oh, there it is. Yay, we are live.
We are live. All right.
All right, shared it to my page. Okay.
Yay.
Hello, everybody. This is Melissa Miriam with Biology of the Soul.
Yes, we've got lots of fun stuff we're going to chat about today about who's the boss, right? The mind or the emotions. Yeah.
Your mind or your emotions. I read this post. I wish I had saved it, but it was like, you need to be stronger than your emotions and your mind should run the show. And I'm like, I don't think it should be that way.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely a balance. And there's a reason that we are mental, emotional, and physical, because there's a harmony, I feel like, between all of those that help us to, it's called scientifically homeostasis, right? Or whatever you want to call it, to have that balance between, and everything works together harmoniously. That's how I see it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think like we are very conditioned and programmed as children and society that our emotions are bad. That that someone who is emotional is not good, or not what's the word? If you're too emotional, that's a bad thing. That you're not in control or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, and so we tend to think that having emotions or being emotional is a bad thing. And then we also are not taught about our emotions. So we are not taught how to regulate them, how to understand them, how to work with them and use them to our advantage. Because emotions are just letting us know if we're heading in the right direction or not. If something feels bad, we should turn away from that. And if something feels good, we should head towards that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think where the problem comes in is when we try to use our mind to build a story about our emotions. Because our mind is actually meant for like data and processing, for precision, for doing certain things in a certain order. And our emotions could care less about the mind. Like, it's just like, this is how you feel, and it doesn't care what the mind is really doing. And then we as humans, we identify with our mind, but we are not our mind. We are the observer of our mind. We are an observer of our thoughts, but most of us believe that we are our thoughts and that we are our mind. Like, the thought that you're thinking is not actually you. You're the one who is hearing the thought. You are the one who is observing the thought happening.
Well, yeah, because a lot of our thoughts come from, our circumstances, so the people around us, our environments, experiences, things like that. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. So, like, this is so wild to me. My stepdad recently told me that when he was younger, they were watching the Olympics, and his mother was like, "Oh, these whores! They are wearing these skimpy clothes and just opening their legs in front of all these people." So what thought is a little boy watching this, and his mother is telling him that these gymnastic women performing these sports are whores? That is going to put a thought in his head, because he's a little boy. Listen, okay, that's a whorish woman, and that's bad. That's how we get programmed. That's how things get put into our head. So our thoughts are not even us. They're just the programming and the conditioning. Like, I think of my mind as like a laptop. And when we're a little baby, other people get to install the programs that we run. So believing that women who dress like that and do sports like that are whores, that's a program that is now being installed into his little mind. And then he's going to run off of that, and it's going to create more beliefs and more things. He said for the longest time, he mistreated women because his mom told him they were just these, whore, skimpy women or whatever. I feel like I've said the word whore way too many times. Like that, like those are when the thoughts come in. So, and then like another thing too is like, your mind is only knowledgeable about what you have seen and experienced, not necessarily what is true and what is beyond this little world that your parents create. So like, when you are born, you hear what your parents say. You only meet people that your parents want you to meet. You only watch TV shows that your parents let you. And then TV is relatively new in a sense. So like our worlds used to be very small before the internet. And that's, I think, where so much has changed, where that we can access new programs, we can access new ways of thinking when we see other people operate in a different way. Like I grew up thinking you only do certain things because these are the things my parents did, and that anyone who's not doing those things is wrong or bad, and that you should be doing these things like this. And that's all we know. So like when, you know, our minds are so like little sponges, we soak up everything that our parents say. We soak up every situation, every experience, and that's what creates our minds processes and our thinking through things. So like even like with trauma, if I'm in a traumatic situation, and I believe that all men, if I'm abused by a man, assaulted by a man, and then my mind goes that men are now scary. We can create a belief that men are awful, that men are bad, that men are scary, and to you know want to avoid them or hate them because of a situation or experience, because your mind wants to protect you from that happening again. So it's like, what belief do we need to have? What programming do we need to run to prevent her from being hurt again? And then it ends up causing you to do things that are not even good or healthy. Like I think we have, this is kind of going off in a totally different thing. I don't know why, but this is where we're going. We have such a hatred for men in society, and they even feel it. And there's valid reasons, like, you know, the patriarchy has, you know, it's not been productive for a lot of people, but like we just hate them so much because we can't extrapolate and understand like how these things work. I'm going off on a tangent here. I want to go back.
But it comes from the mind and the understanding that's been developed from previous experience or circumstances and situations that's impacted people's and women's minds to think that way, to view men that way, even though that's not the whole entire picture. That's pieces of the picture that, yes, sometimes men have done bad things. Also, sometimes women have done bad things. There's been lots of things that have happened,
look,
you know.
Look, where did that come from men? So like when going, okay, this is where it came from. Like my stepdad, right? He said, my mother told me when I was a little boy that women who dress like that are whores, and she would cover his eyes from watching the TV, which also made him like, I want to see that more. What if I'm not allowed to see? Like we desire things that we're not allowed to have. It makes it more
exciting,
it makes it more juicy for us,
like
more exciting. Like, oh, if that's bad, what is it? What is it? Everyone else is watching it. What is it? You know? So little boys, you know, also part of the programming that little boys have is that you cannot cry. You need to be a man. Suck it up. You know, emotions, you as a man, you shouldn't be emotional. You shouldn't have emotions. You should be logical. So
pain is gain, you know, violence is the answer, things like that sometimes.
Yeah, we
you know.
promote it. We promote violence within boys, and boys will be boys, right? So these are the beliefs and the programs that we're running off of that create an environment where you know, a good portion of men will abuse women. And I would say even my own dating experiences, I've had more men who have tried to take things from me than men who haven't. And I don't blame them or like think that they're awful people. I think that it's just based off of how we grew up, the beliefs that we've had, or like as girls, you know, we are afraid. This is becoming a totally different conversation than what I originally planned. As girls, we're taught to be nice. You need to be nice, be nice, be nice. So like when a boy is like, hey, I want to, you know, kiss you and do these things to you, we're like, well, maybe not. Like, I mean, I don't know. And like, I'm not sure. Like we're trying to be nice about it, and we don't know how to just say no. And then there are times where if you do say no, depending on, he could just take it from you anyway. So we're in this like weird position, and it's like, who is it? What's his name? He's a comedian. Aziz Ansari, I think.
Maybe. I can't remember. Yeah. I think I know who you're talking about, though.
Yeah, he was
I
on
think I've
he
seen.
was on that TV show Parks and Rec that everyone loved.
Oh, yeah.
But he was on a, so I mean, I haven't fully looked into it, but like he was on a date with a woman, and they go back to his place, and he's like, hey, you want to like do some stuff? She's like, I don't know. And then he's like, but hey, and he like, maybe he kept trying to like, you know, kind of like getting her to want to do it, and then like, I don't think he pushed himself on her or forced himself on her in any way, but that he was trying to create an environment where it would happen. And he walked away from that situation like, I didn't realize that what I was doing was wrong. Like, this is what I was like, girls will resist it, so you gotta convince them. Girls will try and play hard to get, so you've gotta, you know, do these things. Like these programmings and the beliefs that we're running off of is what's creating this. But
yeah, interesting. Yeah, that is super interesting. And we would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this too. Have you had those kinds of experiences or those kinds of sort of aha moments where you've realized like, where is this mentality coming from? Where is this belief coming from that I'm operating off of, whether it's in relationships or work or family or whatever situations it is? We would love to hear your guys' thoughts and feedback on that too, because I think we've all had situations like that, different types of experiences that have been traumatic or negative in some way, and have impacted how we move forward. I know myself, that's been true in a lot of relationships that I've had with family and friends and on all different people in my life. And, I've had those moments where I realized, wow, like I really reacted differently than I thought I would to this situation. And then when I thought about it later, I'm realizing it's coming from a previous experience, and that's how my mind is operating, because that's what I know. That's what my mind has known and experienced. And then I do think that there is a dual side to it, just like with everything, right? There's two sides to every coin. We have those experiences that are negative and traumatic that impact our knowledge and how our mind and beliefs are operating as we go forward. We can also have positive experiences and situations that have influenced our mind and our knowledge, and therefore impacting our beliefs moving forward. And so it can go both ways. And I think where the pivotal point is when we know and we understand that we have the power to shift that. We have the power to intentionally start rewriting those patterns and start changing how we move forward, the beliefs that we are going to be operating on moving forward. That doesn't mean that the bad things haven't happened. We don't necessarily erase them, but we process through them, we learn from them, and we start intentionally shifting those mental patterns. When we start to recognize, oh, my mind is going down this path from a previous, negative experience, and that's not what I want to do. I don't want to keep living in that way. I don't want to keep operating in that belief, because I no longer recognize that's not actually true. And I know that there is a better way that I can move forward. So I think that's where the pivoting happens, when we start to recognize that's happening in our mind and with our beliefs. That's going to impact obviously our decisions and things that we're doing, how we react and we respond. And then intentionally shifting it when we recognize that it's just sort of automatically going that way, like, whoa, hang on. And we can do that in our mind. And there's lots of different ways of doing that. We can use just our mental, like, visualization. I've heard some people speak of it as like, imagine that it's a door or a gate, right? And we can, as we recognize that our mind is going down a path or a belief that we no longer want to operate in, we can imagine shutting the door or shutting the gate and saying like, no, I don't allow that anymore. That's not a healthy path for me. I'm going to intentionally shift a different direction. And some of the ways that you can do that are using, gratitude, affirmations, closing your eyes, taking some deep breaths, and literally shifting yourself in a different direction mentally. And then that domino effects into our emotions, our behaviors, our decisions. And something you said, Melissa, earlier, I can't remember the exact wording that you used, was how like our mind is sort of not our own, and our mind and our emotions can sometimes have like a disconnect. And the interesting thing is, and a lot of the recent, research is showing this, is that actually a lot of times I think we sort of believe, or we've maybe grown up with some sort of belief, that our emotions like can control our mind or something along those lines. But actually our mind is what is impacting our emotions. Our emotions begin with a thought. And if you really analyze like your emotions and what's going on, you can usually like kind of think back to where that emotion started, and it was a thought. He or she did this to me, or this happened, or this is going to happen, or like you said, the stories that we develop around like something someone did or some sort of circumstance, because that happened, this and this and this happened. But did it actually happen? Is that actually true? Not necessarily. So, I think that knowing that, beginning there, recognizing that our thoughts, those thoughts trigger those neurotransmitters to start being produced in our brain that directly impact the emotions that go from there. And if we can come back and rein in those thoughts that are triggering those emotions, and sometimes it's closely connected to situations, circumstances, things other people are doing, but we can still be intentional about what we think about the situation and choose, how do I want to move forward from this point? Which direction do I want to go from that, situation, circumstance, or whatever it is that's going on? So.
Yeah, exactly. And we, what is more important, your thoughts or your emotions? I don't think one is more important than the other, although I would say your emotions are your guidance system. Your emotions are letting you know if you're going in the right direction. Your brain isn't a guidance system. Your brain is a computer. And it is just going to analyze the data and spit out something that it believes is true based on past experiences. The mind cannot, fully perceive and understand all things. It can only understand and perceive the things that it's experienced. And your emotions don't really have a mind. They just have a feeling. And they're either saying, this feels good, stop doing, or this feels good, keep doing that. This feels bad, stop doing that. And then what I think we have a big problem with, in society or as people, is that we will use our mind to, like you said, create an emotion too. So like, be like, oh, this person did this to me, and that means this, and then that means, and if that's true, then that means this, and then we will build a story in our mind, because our mind is like, okay, well, we have all this data, so we're constantly making predictions with our mind about why somebody did something they did, why they said something they said, and what it means about us. And then what do we need to do about that now? We are always building a story. But the thing is, they're just stories. They're not reality. And then the other thing is, like, everyone has their own story. So like two people can go through one experience together and have completely different thoughts and beliefs about what happened. Like, you ask this person, you say, what happened? They'll say, well, and each person can make themselves sound so true. So like, even if they said they have a conflict, this person, if they tell the story from their perspective, they could sound totally right and you absolutely agree with them. And then this person shares their perspective and it sounds totally right and you absolutely agree with them, because their mind built a story that made them correct. Their mind built a story that, based on what they saw, they like could take the same thing and build a completely different situation. What happened? I saw this play out with my family in the past week. Like, I listened to my sister say something and I'm like, that is so right. That is so true. I absolutely right. And then and she was in conflict with my dad, and I listened to him and I'm like, that is so true. That is so right. And I'm like, whoa, like, what's actually happening here? And and our minds can convince us of anything. Our minds get, like, he's cheating on me because of this, and that the past guy did that, so that must mean that he's definitely cheating on me. And like, we can build these stories. So I think it's not the mind that we should really, I don't think the mind is the most powerful thing about us. I think our emotions really are, because our emotions are letting us know how we feel, and our life, we are meant to feel good. We should feel good. I'm not saying that we should be running around like, life is fantastic. I'm just saying you should feel good. You're not supposed to live each day feeling bad.
Right.
Like, oh, life sucks. I'm never gonna get out of it. Never. Oh, like I'm always working hard. I can't even hang out with my kids and all these things. Like, we shouldn't be feeling that way. But we're using our mind too much instead of tapping into our emotions and going into how we really feel about things. And then we're using our mind to create these stories, which makes more emotions within us, and it just creates this whole this mess, and we're not living like how we want to live. Recently, if my husband, he left, I could build 1,000 stories about how awful I am that this man that I love has left me, and how no one will ever love me, and how I can't handle relationships, and all these things. These are just stories. But the reality is, it's two people experiencing and feeling different things, and living and believing their own perceptions, and that just is what it is. It's not right or wrong or bad. It just is what it is. But if we build stories, that's where the problems come in, right? Like, I'm in the middle of building my business. I left my corporate career. If I let my mind run on stories of how if your marriage fails, you're a failure. If your partner leaves you, then you are just a shitty person. Your relationship should be everything. And that one person, if they're gone, this is it. Like, these are the stories that we build, when we're little, we watch these princess romance movies where it's like finding your person is everything. Well, I found him and then it didn't work. So is everything over? Like, what does this mean? And it's like, I don't build stories anymore. I just accept the situation as it is. I understand that everyone's coming from their own perception and their own feelings and their own experiences, and that creating a story about it isn't going to be productive for me. So I just stop writing stories. So I think the mind and the emotions need to come hand in hand. Not one is superior over the other, although I do actually think emotions are a little bit superior. But it's like, how do you use them in conjunction? Which I highly recommend anybody listening to this, if you're struggling with your mind and your emotions, and you don't know how to work them, and you don't know how to stop building stories, and you're struggling with all these things, my sister has she does this up-level course which explains all this stuff. So one of the things that she recently shared was an emotional guidance scale, and it's not, she didn't make this is the emotional guidance scale. And it's like, we have the ability to feel any of these emotions at any time. And it's like it's almost like a radio dial, where like if you're at the bottom, so the worst, and I don't want to say worst, but like the lowest emotions that you can feel is fear, grief, depression, and powerlessness. But you can change the dial, but it's not like a button where it's like, okay, I'm on 99.9 and then I hit a button and now I'm on 104.7. You've got to dial it, one at a time. So like, if you're in fear, you can move up to insecurity, which is actually better than fear. And if you're in insecurity, you can move up to hatred or anger, which is better than fear and insecurity. And you keep moving yourself up this scale. So like, using your mind to understand where you're at on the emotional guidance scale, and then using your mind to help lift yourself up to the next one, that's where the power comes in. But then also just being aware that your mind is there's something called like she calls it the cocktail effect. And I've heard this before, like if we're in a crowd of people and everyone's talking and it's kind of loud, I will hear out of that crowd if someone says, Melissa, I'm going to hear it. You won't, because your name isn't Melissa. Someone says, Miriam, you're going to hear it, but I won't. Our brains listen for the things that we believe is important, and it will cut everything else out. And that's the cocktail effect. It's like you're at a cocktail party, people are talking, the room is buzzing with noise, but your brain will tune into if it hears Melissa, because that's my name. We are programmed and trained to respond to our names. So we are constantly receiving information with our mind, but our mind will only focus in on pay attention to the things that we have told it's important. So when we're working on dealing with our emotions and things like that, we have to understand that our minds aren't even capable of seeing every possible thing. It's only going to focus on the things that we've told it that is important. So that also tells us if we have been through bad experiences and our mind wants to keep us safe from those bad experiences, it will again use data that and grab pieces of information. Like there's times where I'll say something to somebody and it's like maybe like 2 or 3 sentences, and they will grab one little thing from it and then like twist it into something else, and I'm like, did you hear anything else that I said? Like, why is that the one thing? Did you just have that happen?
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. I feel like, I don't know. Yeah. Which is interesting.
I was like, you must have just had this happen.
Which that's a whole nother like conversation on how we can have beliefs around how people respond to us. So if I have someone that's not really understanding what I'm saying, or misinterpreting it, misunderstanding it, I have that tendency, that belief that causes me to think there's something wrong with me because they misunderstood me or whatever. So that's like a whole other conversation. We can have all these sets of beliefs about how people react and respond to us. And that's, a completely different thing. But I've learned, over the years to realize that, like you said, everyone has their own stories. Everyone is coming from their own situations, circumstances, and different beliefs, different views, mindsets on that. So you might use the word, I don't know, cupcake, and to that person, that triggers a whole set of beliefs and experiences that are not good. And for you, you're just like, I'm just sharing a story, like I don't, and then it goes in this completely different direction.
Yeah, if you were at school and somebody took a cupcake and shoved it in your face and called you an idiot, you are now triggered by cupcakes. and fear will fill your body. Mm-hmm. Whether you even remember that or not, your mind, your body always remembers it. There's a book, The Body Keeps Score. I haven't read it yet, but everyone is talking about it, that your mind and your body remember these things, whether you consciously or not. Like, we have to realize that there are 2 parts of our mind. There is the things that we're thinking of, and then there's things that all the data that we have collected. The movie Inside Out is very good at kind of showing us this. Yeah. They collect all of our memories. They're the little marble balls, and they're all stored and saved there. And if you were to, like, your brain has all of these things, and they use it to create a belief system. Cupcakes are bad because cupcakes mean I'm going to be punched in the face and called an idiot and ridiculed and humiliated in front of all of my friends. And that will stay, in your mind. Like, I've been doing RTT, rapid transformation therapy, with Alina. It's been absolutely amazing. And one of the things that she does is, like, she does this meditation hypnosis thing that takes you back to a time or a memory that instilled a belief in you that you don't want to be running off of or operating on. And there was a memory that I went back to where my dad, my biological, I've been talking about my stepdad earlier, so just reference different guy now. My biological dad, he would yell at my mom and just be so angry at her all the time because she didn't keep the house as clean as his mother did. And the thing too is, like, his mom never paid attention to the children. She would send them outside because they would dirty the house. And her whole thing was keeping this super clean, immaculate house. Whereas my mom was like, I'm going to spend more time with my children than washing dishes. Like, she's like, if it's a little bit messy, I don't care. I want to be with my kids. But he would, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think if you're a mother listening to this, it is more important to be with your children than to be cleaning your house. And that was a whole other thing too with my family. We were talking about my grandma and her raising, her children. And my mom says she remembers her mom cleaning more than hanging out with her. And that was a duty of my grandma. I'm not blaming my grandma in any way. She had a full-time job. She had to do things. She had to raise the kids. She had to keep the house because she had a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. So my dad comes from this experience of, you have to have a super clean house because that's what my mother did, and she's the best because she's my mother, and because that's how we think and that's how we operate. And then my mom was like, my mom spent a lot of time cleaning and not hanging out with me. I would rather hang out with my kids. But he would yell and scream at her about how she was, I remember him saying, she just sits in front of the TV eating bonbons all day. I literally remember him saying, I don't even know what a bonbon is. I think they're like little cupcakes.
They're like little pastry things or whatever.
Yeah, like he had this belief that if a woman didn't have an immaculate house, she was lazy. So he would yell at my mom and do all these things. I don't consciously think about those things, but all of those memories and experiences are back in there. They're back in your brain, and they're causing you to believe a certain way, think a certain way, run a data in a program. I think the best thing you can do for yourself is question yourself with every thought you have. Like, is this actually true? And why do I think it is true?
What do I think? Why do I think this, and why am I feeling this? Like, both of those are very good.
And it's weird, but you actually have to like mistrust your thoughts. You have to, in a way, because your thoughts are just going to run the program. They're going to continue to run the program
on their like automatic setting. If you aren't intentional about it, right? If you aren't kind of like questioning, like, where is this coming from? And I've done that myself in conversation. I realized, like, wow, I really reacted very poorly to that, and I'm not really sure why. Like, where is this coming from? And we have to think about it. So we encourage you today, if you haven't done it, take some time once a week, twice a week, whatever you can do, and analyze, like, where are these things coming from that I'm dealing with today, this week? Journal, take some time to really think about it, and then decide how you're going to intentionally start to shift those things. It's not a magic wand. It does take time. Over time, you start to first just recognize, oh, I don't really like this pattern. I don't really like this belief. This is not really helping me. Okay, now I'm going to start to recognize it and try to stop it, try to shift in a different direction with more gratitude, with whatever it is that you need to do to, some deep breathing, some walk away, take a break, come back, and help yourself shift intentionally into a different pattern with a balance between your emotions and your mind working together to move you forward in the beliefs that you want to operate in, and be able to respond instead of react, and all of those different things. And I love, Melissa, how you said that those, our emotions are directly impacting our body and our physiology as well. And that's such a big reason why we react, and it feels like a physical reaction almost, especially when it's something that's connected to a traumatic or negative experience in the past. And that's because the neurochemicals that are produced with our emotions and with a trauma, something that's been traumatic to us, are impacting our systems in our body. Those neurochemicals actually can collect and get stored in different areas of the body, and that's where the Body Keep Score comes in play. Look that up. There's other books that are similar. And just a quick run through: anger has a heavy impact on your liver. Anger and trauma, and those are closely connected, have a big impact on your liver. Grief has a big effect on the lungs. Worry has a huge impact on the stomach and digestive system. Fear.
That's why kids always say, my stomach hurts. Like, how many times my stomach hurts? They don't understand that they're worried about something. And then as parents, we're like, oh, go poop.
Right. And
They're
sometimes it's
having anxiety.
Sometimes it's worry.
Go poop.
Yep. And I mean, it can cause, that to happen, but it's not necessarily the primary thing that needs to be addressed, right? We need to address the worry, the concern. Fear directly impacts our kidneys. And that's really funny because our kidneys are directly connected to the bladder, right? And what do you think when people get really scared? Sometimes what happens? They pee their pants, right? So okay. Anyways,
we could so connected.
We could go on all day long, but we can have literal physiological responses because of a situation, a circumstance, and the emotions and beliefs that are tied to that. Stress directly impacts the brain and the heart. How many times has it been that you're stressed, that you're like, I have a headache, or like heart palpitations with stress, or like that like tight feeling, from stress. Those are, it's interconnected. So that's what we said in the beginning. And that's why we do this biology of the soul, so we can have these conversations about these things, unravel what's going on, and begin to understand how we can gain more control and more balance and harmony between the mind, the body, and the soul. So I love that you said that, because it's very interconnected, and we're going to kind of unravel even more. We have our 14-day series coming up that we're going to be doing. So we're going to dig into these things a little bit more and give some more strategies and helpful things over the next 14 days. So those of you who want to listen into that, we're going to just be going live for the next 14 days to share little tidbits with you. And they're going to be real short, just a few minutes long. So if you want to be a part of that, let us know, like comment here, say 14-day series or whatever, or I'm in, whatever you want to do, and then we can get you tagged on those and add you in. I'm really excited because I think, like you said in the beginning, Melissa, we don't grow up learning these things. We don't learn awareness of where our thoughts and emotions are coming from. We don't often learn good coping mechanisms. Oftentimes we learn not so good coping mechanisms, like, go to the bar and drink yourself into the ground, or,
eat
or whatever.
endlessly because of our emotions.
Eating emotions. Yep. That's a huge one. There's so many different things. And so we want to help you learn better strategies on, first of all, identifying and recognizing these things going on, and then how to use different types of coping mechanisms to move forward. I can talk. So I can share, there's one strategy that I recently came across that I thought was really, really helpful. Should we do it today?
Yes.
Okay. So actually I can walk through it, and then do you want to practice? Do you want to demonstrate it?
Yeah, you could do it.
For us?
Just tell me what to do.
Okay. All right. So it's only takes a couple of minutes, guys. And you can do this if you're in your car and you're stressed and you're running late and you're at a stoplight. You can do this. If you're stuck in traffic, you can do this. You can do this at home. You can do this at work on, literally like 2 minutes. Okay. So you're going to sit and close your eyes. I'm not going to close my eyes as I'm talking, but Melissa will demonstrate for you. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're actually going to activate your stress response a little bit intentionally, because you're going to retrain your nervous system, your brain, your central nervous system, and it's interconnected between your emotions and your brain here. So we're bringing both together and retraining. The first step is to close your eyes, focus on something that, is calming, basically. Just what, imagine you're sitting on a beach or wherever you want to be, okay? And then you're going to take 20 breaths quickly, back to back, in through the nose, 20 times, without a break in between. Then right after that, you're going to do 20 slow breaths, slow, methodical, in through the nose, and a long, deep exhale. And then a little, like a second or two in between each of those 20 times. So she'll demonstrate for us. Those of you guys who know me know I love to use plants as a part to kind of magnify and amplify the benefits for our biology and our mind. So if you have your aromatherapy on hand, something like a stress away, something calming and soothing, you can incorporate that as well for the second part. The first part, just take the 20 quick breaths. On the second part, you can use like a stress away, peace and calming, whatever, and take those deep breaths and add that aromatherapy in if that's something that you have on hand.
Okay, so 20 fast or so.
Yep. And you might get a little lightheaded. That's normal, because it's almost hyperventilation intentionally.
I'm already feeling stressed.
Okay,
I think I did 20.
Okay, and then the nice And then just really, and then as you're into the second phase with the slow, deep, intentional breaths, bring your mind to a place of gratitude. Think of things that you're thankful for. Bring your mind and your emotions into a place of thankfulness, of joy, of peace, of hope, whatever it is that comes to your mind that brings you into that. Visualize, something really relaxing and peaceful. Yeah. Awesome.
This is number 10. Look at this, is like double the length.
It takes more time, but that's okay. Good. And the deeper the breath goes, the better. A lot of times we have a tendency to just breathe like chest breathing. Imagine your abdomen filling up with the air like a balloon, and then exhaling that all out. Nice deep breath there.
I think I got somewhere around 20.
Yeah.
It's hard to count.
And how do you feel?
I honestly actually feel like excited, but also calm. Like that fast breathing kind of like,
hypes you up a little.
Like, which is cool because, what's crazy is that fear and excitement are on the same scale,
wavelength or whatever
line. It's just that if you're afraid, it looks like this, and if you're excited, it looks like this. And so that heavy breathing made you go like this.
yeah.
And then you're able to like put that back in and so I actually turned that fear into like excitement in a way. That was interesting.
Yeah.
That was cool. But when we talk about that emotional guidance scale, it takes 18 seconds minimum to be able to shift your belief. You can't just go, I'm angry and I'm going to decide to be overwhelmed instead because it feels better. You have to like change the dial, and it takes 18 seconds to move the dial. So that breathing technique definitely took longer than, 18 seconds. So that could be something that can shift your feeling. And that's another thing too, is if doing the breathing is better than building a story. Like if you're angry, you're like, she did this to me and I don't deserve that. And she's so awful and she's such a B. And why did she think that she could do that to me? I don't deserve that. That's building a story. You have to stop building a story. Instead of building a story, do the breathing technique instead. Every time.
Yep. Or, something for you. It might be journaling or whatever it is.
Yeah. Wow, that was cool. All right. Awesome.
Okay.
I don't think we have any comments.
Well, we will talk more soon, unless there's anyone that has questions or anything. We will be doing our 14-day series, and then I think we'll be back again next Wednesday. We'll be on next Wednesday as well to bring more helpful strategies and just talk about these things that just aren't talked about enough, really, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited. It's going to be really good. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.
Bye.